Hi, Charlotte here from Not Shabby by Charlotte, and welcome to my video series walking you through all the different colours in the Fusion Mineral Paint range. And the intention of these videos is to help you know what it's like when you're shopping for colours on the internet. There's so many confusing images with different lighting, some have been edited, some haven't, so it's really hard to pick the colour that is suitable for you. So I'm going to walk you through, I've got a little selection of videos, one going through neutrals, one going through greys, greens, blues, metallics, the reds, the yellows. So you just need to select the video for you, dependent on which type of colour you're trying to choose. And I will walk you through from light to dark, all the colours in that selection. This video is about greens and explain to you the undertones, what they work with well, just explain to you how these colours are made up and give you all the information you need to choose the right shade for you. And this is a real good starting point. It's really helpful, lots of information in this video, but there's also other ways that you can use to choose the right colour for you. You can obviously pop in store to any stockist that's close by and have a chat with local stockists, see things in person. You can also buy tester pots. These tiny little tester pots here they look so diddy, they're just 37mm, but they go miles. We actually call them project pots because they're great for painting a small project like a chair, a small side table, photo frames, etc., craft projects. But as well as that, they're brilliant for just testing the colour at home in your light. So you can buy a tester pot, paint a little swatch on your wall, and do a little test on your piece of furniture, piece of paper, that kind of thing, because you need to see how these colours are going to work in your home environment. Everyone will have slightly different levels of light. Some will have more synthetic light, some will have more natural light. Even those of you with synthetic light, you'll have chosen different types of bulbs. So some bulbs will cast a blue light, some a yellow light, some a white light, and these are all going to taint the way you perceive your colours and the way you see them and the way they work together. Also, you want to see how your colours work with what else you've got going on in the room. Sometimes in isolation a colour will look a certain way, but when you put it next to your carpet, your walls, your sofa, your bedding, etc., it will really skew the way you perceive it and the way it works. So it's really important that you check your colours in your own light, otherwise you might get a nasty surprise and it might not look exactly as you'd envisaged, and we don't want that, do we? So as well as this video and the little tester pots to help you choose your colour, Fusion also do true colour cards, which are really good. They put a lot of effort into developing these really brilliant colour cards which have true to colour swatches on them. So they are an accurate finish, an accurate matte finish as to how the paint will look when it's dried, and the colours are perfect. You can paint your wall, paint your piece of furniture, and then put the colour card next to it and it will be a dead ringer, an exact match once you've got like a solid opaque finish. Obviously there's nothing showing through to how the paint is when it's dried, because wet paint and paint in the jar is always going to look different to how it looks when it's dried. It's got water content in there that's going to evaporate, and when that water content has gone and the paint has dried and cured, it will be a slightly different colour. So always choose your paint from the colour card or from a dry painter swatch. Do not choose it from wet in the jar, because that's not going to be accurate and you're going to be disappointed. And then another way that you can use to choose your colours, if you want a little bit more information, is Fusion do these amazing fan decks. They are brilliant. This includes a really large swatch, and that's what we're going to use today when we go through the greens. I've taken out all the greens out of the fan deck. They've got really large swatches that you can move about to see what looks nice next to each other. You can compare them, like for example, if I was trying to find a grey or a complementary colour to match my t-shirt or anything, you can put them right next to it with no confusing border around it or anything. Really, really good for colour matching. And as well as having the full Fusion range and the Fusion metallics, there is also 50 plus recipes at the back of this fan deck. So just by mixing two colours together, you can create, they've given you 50 recipes here to create 50 new colours, which is pretty awesome. And Fusion paints mix together so well. Other cheaper paints with cheaper pigments in them will not mix together cleanly and well. The more you mix the colours together, they'll get muddy and nasty and rubbish. They won't stay fresh and clean. But Fusion use such high quality ingredients that you can mix them. I mix my paints together over and over again, keep adding bits, mixing it, and the colours stay clean and fresh. None of that when we were kids at school. We used to mix nasty acrylic paints together, and no matter what you picked together, you'd get a grubby brown. They're beautiful for mixing if you want to create your own custom colours. But today we are going to focus on going through the colours in the range that you can buy straight out of a jar and have the same consistent colour over and over again. So yeah, we're going to talk through the greens, and I'm going to walk you through these pale minty green shades. through these sort of neutrals and olive shades to the fresher ones to these deep, rich greens here. So we're going to walk through, I'm going to walk you through, name them all, explain them all, yeah, just talk you through the differences. So shall we get started? Let's start first of all with these three minty greens. Oh no, I've got four there. These three sort of fresher minty greens, you can see that these are all a bit grubbier, a bit more olive, a bit more neutral, or a bit richer and deeper and more saturated. Let's start with these soft ones to start with. So here we have Inglenook, Brook and Laurentian. And you can see, as I've already said, that these are quite minty. They've got a pastel element to them. In particular, Inglenook and Brook have quite a large white content in them, which has made them pastel-y. Whereas you can see Laurentian is much punchier and fresher and brighter. Much cleaner, more saturated a colour. So yeah, Inglenook and Brook, I would say, are in the same kind of family, just your Inglenook is paler and your Brook has more pigment in it. It starts to get a little bit darker. If anything, I would say that Brook might be a tiny bit greener, a bit more leaning towards a sort of traditional sort of garden green. I'm trying to think of the words to describe the colours. But yeah, they are really pretty, really beautiful colours. I've actually painted the inside of the vestibule of the church in Inglenook because I love it. I love minty green colours. So that is those two. You can see how they work together. And Laurentian is a bright colour. You know, if you're looking for a bright pop, if you're looking to make a statement, Laurentian will do that for you. It's really lovely. What does it say on the back? We call this our unique twist on Robin's Egg Blue. We reimagined the classic shade and the result is a stunning hue that's more vibrant than its pastel origins. There you go. Quite a nice vibrant shade that will make a statement, trust me. So that's those three. Inglenook, Brook and Laurentian. Let's move on to bring my little table closer to me. Let's move on to the next little selection. So let's go through these sort of neutrally olivey ones. So here we have a little selection of greens that are quite muted, quite neutral, very natural. We have eucalyptus, bellwood, newel, and correct me, help me with this. I never know whether to say lichen or lichen. I think it's lichen. There's no T. Let's go for lichen. So eucalyptus is quite neutral. Let's get... If we put sort of, this is cashmere. If we put a neutral shade next to it, you'll see it doesn't actually look very green. It still looks very neutral, just a little bit sort of a darker taupey kind of shade, but with green undertones. So if you are looking for a mid-toned taupe with green, subtle green undertones, it's not going to scream green at you, it's just going to be very subtle, then eucalyptus is the one for you. Did I even name these? I did, didn't I? Eucalyptus, bellwood, newel and lichen. And then, so that is eucalyptus, which is a lovely, soft, taupey neutral, but with subtle greenness to it. Now, if you would like to be a little bit braver and say, no, we're going for a bit more green, then bellwood is just that little bit more green. Bellwood is a beautiful shade, really, really beautiful. It's cool but warm at the same time. It's not cold, it's just soft, and it is that little bit greener than eucalyptus, which is slightly more neutral and more olivey and softer. And then moving on to newel. Newel is gorgeous. What does it say about newel? Cool and elevated, this soft green with silver undertone brings sophistication to any space. So you can see it is quite grey. It's sort of a green toned grey or a grey toned green, whichever you want to look at it. It is bang in the middle of those two shades, I would say. Newel is really, really beautiful, very calming. These are very calming, natural, nature-inspired shades. Really, really beautiful. But then if you would like to have a little bit more yellow content, we can move on to lichen. As you can see, that's got a lot more yellow in it. We're leaning a lot more towards the olive. You see how it makes the newel look quite blue, and this is a good example of how putting colours together can change them, because lichen on its own doesn't look overly yellow, but when you put it next to newel, it does, and vice versa. It makes the newel look bluer next to each other. So they are lovely, soft, mid-tone options for your greens. Eucalyptus, Bellwood, Newell and Lichen. What do we have next? Okay, so next we have, let's have a look at these two who are quite nice and fresh, and let's just see how we compare them. So this is Conservatory and Upper Canada Green, both a lot more saturated than the previous colours, not at all greyed off, fresher, more yellow content. They make a lovely, rich, deep, warm green statement, and you can see how much warmer they are than the three minty shades we looked at to start with, Inglenut, Brook and Laurentian. Much warmer, and you can also see how much more saturated they are than the second little group that we looked at. Excuse me. You see how they are really soft. You see how they are much punchier. So that gives you an idea how Upper Canada Green and Conservatory will make much more of a statement. They are beautiful colours. I've actually painted a dining set in Conservatory this week. I can't wait to show that to you guys once it's settled into its new home. But they are, Upper Canada Green is going to make more of a statement. It's much brighter and fresher, whereas Conservatory is that lovely mid-tone between modern and traditional. It would work in both environments. It just gives a traditional scheme a slightly braver modern edge, I think. Really, really lovely colour. Okay, now let's look at these all together. The last little group we have got, maybe I think I'm going to introduce Conservatory back into them just to show you, just it's a good comparison. So here we have Conservatory that we've already looked at. We've got Carriage House, Everett, Wellington, Bayberry, Park Bench, Pressed Fern and Manor Green. Now you can see that Carriage House is a similar kind of tone to Conservatory. It's still a mid-tone, sort of maybe leaning towards the darker end of the greens, but it's much greyer, much less yellow content, which in turn makes it much softer because yellow is a bright, punchy colour. So the more yellow content you have, the more vibrant and brighter it's going to make your shade of green. Don't want to teach you how to suck eggs, but obviously everybody knows that green is made by mixing yellow and blue. So when we go through these shades, they're going to be greens that are leaning more towards the yellow, which are warmer and brighter, and the shades that are leaning more towards the blue, which are cooler and potentially a little bit softer. And depending on how much white content or black content they've got in them, they will be more pastel or deeper and moodier. So yes, so Carriage House, you can see, is clearly less yellow, slightly greyer, and just really, really calming, whereas that's a little bit more energising. Carriage House is a little bit more tranquil and a little bit more calming. And then if you want to stick in the same sort of family as Carriage House, but go a bit darker and a little bit more olive, maybe a bit browner, a bit bronzier, here we have Everett, which is a lovely shade, very, very earthy. If you're looking for something earthy, grounded, then Everett is the one for you. Next up we have, oh, you know what, I'm going to move that, that's in the wrong place. Change my mind. Let's move Wellington to the end. Yeah, look, it's darker. That's better. Okay, so next up, so we've just looked at Everett, and then now we've got Bayberry, and you can see that where we jumped from Carriage House to Everett, we got darker. Everett and Bayberry, I would say, are in the same kind of tone, the same level of darkness, but Bayberry has that little bit more yellow content added to it. So rather than being bronzy and grey, it's leaning a lot more towards those olive tones. A very, very traditional shade, very, very popular. I've got a sideboard. Can you see bottom there? That is painted in Bayberry, and everyone that comes in to buy paint goes, oh my God, that is a lovely, lovely shade. Really, really traditional, yet timeless. Bayberry is gorgeous. Now, if you want to be a bit bright and a bit brave, you can move on to Park Bench. Now, this is inspired by all those park benches out there. So if you have sat on a green park bench, then you know what colour we're talking about. This is lovely, rich, bright. It's going to make a statement. It's quite bright, but it is also not scary bright, you know what I mean? We're not talking super duper contemporary pop art kind of colours. It's still very accessible, very usable. It's just going to create that little bit of light in your room. And then we move on to pressed fern. Try and get the light to catch them. Then we move on to pressed fern, which starts to go bluer again, deeper, and considerably darker. So this is going to read quite dark, whereas these last two colours that we've not got to yet, in certain lights could read quite black if it was quite dark. I think that pressed fern is the darkest shade you are going to go, which is still going to very obviously read green. So then last but not least, the two shades that we have last are Manna Green and Wellington. And when they get dark, it's difficult. I have to hold them at a certain angle to try and make them obvious to you. So Manna Green isn't insanely different to pressed fern, but if pressed fern, you've got a tester and it's just like a little bit brighter, a little bit too bright for you. You want something a little bit more subtle, a little bit, the vibrancy of that is a little bit scary for you. You want to go a bit more sophisticated, a bit more knocked back, then Manna Green is going to do that for you. Tiny bit more olivey and a bit darker. And then you can go even further with Wellington, which ultimately in isolation, it would look like a grey. So it's a dark grey with green undertones. If you put it with greens, then that green is going to be pulled out. If you put it next to other colours, then it might look more grey. So there you go, that is the awesome selection of greens. Shall I try and fan them all out for you again so you can really see the amazing selection that you've got here? From the really dark, deep bronzy greens to the fresher, brighter, more spring greens, to the neutrals, the greyed off soft greens there, to the minter greens. That is a lot of greens to choose from. There is a green for most projects there, and even if that isn't enough for you, if there's none of those are hitting the mark, none of those are quite what you're looking for, you can then go to the fan deck. These are the recipes at the back. Let me, just for context, let's have a look. That's the whole fan deck, right? That section there at the beginning is everything in the Fusion Mineral Paint range. It's hard to butterfingers. Right, let's start again. It's hard to fan them all out to show you everything because there's like 60 odd colours, but that is the Fusion Mineral Paint range at the beginning. Then in the middle, we have our selection of, I think it's about 8 metallic shades, which I go through in a different video. And then this section at the back, this section, which is almost as much as there is at the front, these are all recipes. And if you're looking for more greens, there are quite a lot of lovely greens in here, which give you an idea of which colours you can mix together to create different tones. So for example, if you want a really bright, fresh, look at that sort of tropical green, that is equal parts of Azure and Prairie Sunset to achieve that. Recipe number 43 out of 54. If you want that kind of green, that is equal parts Park Bench and Renfrew Blue. So I mean, these are easy recipes to create. So I'm using this fan deck more and more. It really does give me and my customers more options. And obviously there's not just green recipes, there's all, but this video is about greens. So there's loads of pinks, yellows, got those lovely shades at the back there. So that is why the fan deck is awesome. It just gives you more options. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that's giving you the information you need to see which shade of green might be suitable for your project. If at the very least, it should have whittled down from the whole selection of greens and not knowing where to start, maybe to 2 or 3 that are your absolute faves, that you're going to get testers of, that you're going to try, and you don't need to buy all of the testers. You can limit yourself to a few and save a few pennies and a bit of time. So yes, I hope that was helpful. Happy painting. You know where to find me if you have any more questions, if you want to discuss your project or purchase testers, colour cards, fan decks, whatever on my website, www.nottoshabbybycharlotte. All my contact details on there as well. If you have any questions about your projects, I'm here to help. Don't hesitate to drop me an email, a DM, a text message, a WhatsApp, give me a call, whatever is your preferred method of contact. Happy painting. Bye, guys.